I'm here with Mats Olsen, who's the CTO and co-founder of Dune. Mats, would you mind first introducing what Dune does?
For sure. So I like to think of Dune as the crypto data platform. So we help everyone from blockchains to protocols to end users understand activity on chain. We support more than 75 networks today and are growing really nicely and helping people just understand.
Okay. The way I see it is like one of the only open platforms that can provide an authoritative source of truth, both to companies and to users. So I just wondered how you feel about serving a critical role in the blockchain space and what's the pros and cons of that?
Yeah. So we made a choice, maybe more serendipitous than deliberate, back when we made Dune a community platform where we don't really curate much information at all. We rely on our users who come from blockchains, protocol teams, apps, and users, anyone who's curious to, provide analysis on top of data. What we really work on is ensuring that the data is as accurate as possible, as up-to-date as possible. And on the other side, making sure that the content that people create, the dashboards, the queries, that they are put in front of the right people. So we don't take that active role in creating the content, but I think we play a huge role in telling people what's actually going on. And so relying on thousands of people who are scratching their own itch, either at work or in their evenings, based on curiosity. And our role is really amplifying the right content. And, the downside of a user-generated platform is that there's so much content. And so really there's a long tail of stuff that's being built that never sees the light of day. And so we're really thinking about how we can create more light, essentially, on content.
Could you expand on how you approach shedding more light on that content? Is there like a curation process? Is it a marketing thing?
There's a couple of things that we do right now and a lot of things we want to do in the future. The things we do right now is that the default view that everybody lands on Dune is the trending view. So this is an algorithmic feed that takes into account, favorites and page views, essentially, and provides you with what we think is like the most accurate view of what people are interacting with on Dune. So ensuring that this algorithmic feed is accurate and not vulnerable to things like bots and people farming stuff has been a lot of work, something we continue to invest in. We also do amplify content in occasional newsletters, we do Twitter threads, we do all these kinds of stuff. We also work with a lot of partners, such as blockchain networks themselves, to ensure that, we surface the right content that tells a story.
I like that storyteller of crypto narrative.
Everyone else is a storyteller. We just try to give a platform to the story, really.
I think the last number I had was 60 terabytes of data added each day on Dune. Is that still accurate?
There's like a petabyte of data on Dune.
Wow.
And half of that is Solana. And the rest of it is 30 plus parachains, Polkadot, Ethereum, most L2s in the EVM landscape, Polygon, BNB, Tron. These are huge blockchains as well. And so There's a lot of data. And one thing that we've learned is like, if you want to just index a blockchain and have it in your database, that's easy. But if you want to do 75 and be able to query across them and tell a story about all of crypto in one dashboard, that's really tricky.
So how do you keep up, and how does that fragmentation, does it frustrate you? And how do you prioritize what you're working on?
So I think we've come to realize that without all the data, you at best are just slightly altering the story of crypto adoption, but at worst, you're telling an entirely wrong story. If you have an app like Matcha that might be deployed on, say, 20 chains, and Dune only supports 19, and the 20th is like the largest chain for Matcha. And obviously that would completely misrepresent the adoption of an app. And so for us, like having that coverage so that protocol teams really can showcase what's going on and end users can really understand like how an app is used has been critical. So we really think of coverage and broad network support as important. And it's also really important to the networks themselves to showcase what developers are building on those chains and how people are interacting with it. For some chance, it's like DeFi is a narrative. For others, I don't know, maybe NFTs. There are all kinds of different narratives or stories or nuances for different chains and L2s. And we're just excited to support them.
And you have some of the biggest brands in crypto relying on you to surface the information that they can use to tell their story. It's kind of everything, everywhere, all at once. How do you keep on top of that?
We work with anybody who wants to work with Dune. Like, the platform is open from a user perspective, and then with networks we choose to partner. And so really what we try to do is listen to our customers, what they want to see on Dune next. And usually those same people are telling chains that they want Dune support for their app or something like that. And so it usually nets out to like a prioritized list of chains that want to be on Dune. And our integration process, because we have quite high standards in terms of data accuracy, timeliness, etc., is a little bit hands-on. So it takes us a good bit of engineering effort to get chains on Dune, which is why we don't support every chain in the world right now, and we're doing one by one, so to speak. But this year we've added more chains than in the entire history of Dune. I think without breaking too much of the news, we have more than 10 chains coming up in the next month, something like that. So there's a lot of things going on at Dune at the moment.
Have you got better at adding new chains? Is that one of your product successes?
It's definitely been an unlock for us, both engineering wise, but also just how we think about networks and their role in Dune. Like, Dune as a company was founded in 2018, where Ethereum was the only, or at least the very much dominant like smart contract platform. And we attacked the problem from like an ETH-centric perspective. And over time, we have definitely become agnostic to like ETH or Polygon or Solana or Aptos or Sui or Sei. Like, we just want to paint an accurate picture and give people the tools they need to do their job.
Are you working with narratives to shape that journey? Or are you working with just the data that you see flowing at like a basic level and then building on top of that?
The company itself works with the data, right? So we ensure that the data gets into the platform at the most basic levels of abstraction. You have your blocks and your transactions, etc. After that, we rely on our community to submit APIs for popular smart contracts, so that things like Matcha data would be decoded and human readable instead of just byte arrays and gibberish. Mm-hmm. After that, we work together with our community on abstracted data sets that live in a GitHub repository called Spellbook. And this, I think, is where maybe it's a little bit narrative driven, like where people, if there's a narrative around, I don't know, modularity or something, or bridging or NFTs or something, like people would end up building tailored data sets around that. But as a company, we're really agnostic. Like, personally, I didn't even realize there was like an NFT boom until it was over, because I was just focusing on the data, didn't really think about the narrative or anything like that. And sort of, I think the strength of Dune is very general, and it's suitable for just all of this. Like, Dune grew up during DeFi summer, not because Dune was a good DeFi app or it was a good app to analyze DeFi, but because it was the fastest place to get data on new protocols. And it still is today. So we don't really play to any narrative or anything like that.
It's very organic, and it's user-generated content that is driving whatever you see on Dune.
Exactly. So, but lastly, what I will say is that if people are looking at a bunch of dashboards for bridging, like, bridging dashboards will be trending. So, like, the trending page will sort of reinforce the current narratives in that sense. It's like what's popular will be surfaced to you as a user. And I think that's fine. That is what is the current topic, the meta, whatever you want to call it. And so for most people, that's useful.
How do you see Dune evolving over the next 3 to 5 years?
I've always struggled with that time frame. So I don't know if it's 1 year, 2 year, or 5 years, but one thing that's definitely on the roadmap as becoming more and more important is essentially defining cross-chain data sets. You have things like chain abstraction, intent, you have just a general drive of applications deploying on multiple chains. And it's clear that everyone is still working in with data structures that are defined per chain. And so for Dune, I think one of the things we really want to level up on is defining this new era of data models that work cross-chain. So we started some work on this, but more to come. And so really making it easier to work cross-chain. This is also spilled over to another initiative that we have, which is more developer facing. So traditionally, Dune's data has only been suitable for analytics, essentially, through Dune.com and our APIs. But we have leaned much more into making this data available for developers to build applications on top of recently. So this is only like a 6-month-old project that I'm leading, but more and more we are using our knowledge and our experience from ingesting 75 or something like that blockchains into Dune to provide data for apps, essentially. The difference here is mostly the timeliness of the data. So it's available in milliseconds after the block has been propagated versus maybe a couple of minutes on Dune.com. So those are the two big trends, I think. And you can expect a lot more chains and networks on Dune as well.
That developer side, getting a direct feed of the data. Are there any early examples of that? How it's being used or how you can imagine it would be used?
For sure. Currently we have 2 APIs that are sort of production ready and are used by paying customers. So one of them is a multi-chain token balances API. So we've time and time again heard from customers that fetching token balances is a pain on one network. And if you're deployed on multiple, it's really painful. It can amount to a lot of RPC requests or something like that. So we just built like a chain abstracted token balances API, if you will. So for 27 chains today, I think 28 maybe, in one call, you get an account's token balances. And it's like the fastest in the industry. And we're continuing to invest in that. And this is used in the wild and people pay to use that. So we're pretty proud of it. We built it in a short amount of time. The second one we have is like an account's transaction history across the same number of chains. So you can look up for an account, what are their most recent transactions where they were involved. So either receiving or sending transactions. And this has also been very useful for customers. And the next thing we are building is a more higher order abstraction on top of this transaction history, where we take into account like internal transactions, asset transfers, etc., so that we can serve this data for for instance, a wallet where you want to see not just your transactions, but your incoming and outgoing ERC20 transfers, maybe your NFT mints, stuff like this, like a rich history. And we do it across chains. So we don't believe in the chain selector, or at least we don't believe that will be the future. And so it's important for us is that, you get all this data across all the chains in one call.
Is a challenge for you to take over the existing legacy infrastructure that some wallets and some other apps would be using?
I think there are product challenges and there are go-to-market challenges. On the product side, a challenge with building these things is, when you support a lot of chains, you also realize that a lot of these chains are maybe built on unreliable RPC infrastructure and stuff like that. So to really serve a great user experience on the other side, we need to really, work with the best of the best in terms of RPC and infrastructure and stuff like that. So it's a challenge there. On the go-to-market side, we think of it in 2 ways, like building the developer platform up for the future so that the next set of apps have an easier time building, a multi-chain app. That's, I think, more of a distribution and a marketing question, like ensuring that people know of the Dune developer products when they set out to build their next thing. Mm-hmm. And secondly, yes, we talk to teams who are existing customers of Dune who may not be happy with their current setup, or maybe I think they should use Dune. I don't know. We just talk to them, get their feedback. A lot of them are happy with what they have, and that's fine. And some of them say, hey, that's really interesting, let me try it out, and end up using it.
Yeah, I think it's very admirable that you're admitting to not being able to serve every single chain to the level that you want to. You have standards, and you have to meet those standards.
Yeah. So with the potential to ruffle some feathers, I think the space is built on sometimes poor engineering and bad infrastructure. There's a lot of apps when you load them that take 5 seconds to load. You click the sign button and you wait for 7 seconds for your wallet to like pop up a sign button. And it's like things are really slow. And personally, I'm just like my personal UX crusade is like taking page load times down to what they should be. Like what the equivalent is in the Web2 world, which is like everything should load in 500 milliseconds, a second at most. And that doesn't work if all your APIs take 3 seconds to respond.
In Web3 crypto, we definitely need someone crusading for better UX and UI. And I think that's probably the biggest like meta narrative now.
Yeah.
It's good that you're there to serve the customers and ensure that there's better infrastructure for the apps that are coming and the apps that are still stuck on the legacy rails. So is there anything else you'd like to add?
November 11th, the day before DevCon in Bangkok, we're throwing DuneCon. And so you should definitely consider applying for that and coming to DuneCon in Bangkok. You're all invited.
Thanks again for joining us, Mats. And until next time.
Thanks for having me.